Hello, this is Dieter Legat. The purpose of this presentation is to position Threefold in the framework of the law of sustainability described by Bernard Lietaer's last book. Thank you for your interest. I will cover 3 points. First, a closer look at the law of sustainability. It's a powerful law and worth a little more attention. Second, how we manage systems today with destructive efficiency and blind for resilience. And third, Threefold and the law of sustainability. Threefold's role in mankind's information system, how the internet today is not sustainable, and how Threefold brings the internet back to sustainability. So let's have a look at the law of sustainability. 3 scientists discovered this law in the early 2000s. Dr. Sally Gerner, Bernard Lietaer, and Robert Ulanovich, and they published their discovery in Elsevier in 2009. This law is desperately needed. We know that our world is out of order in many ways. The list of things out of order seems endless. Climate, monetary system, caring for the old and sick, forests, the sea, healthcare, education. You can go on and on and on, and all these systems are out of order. But, says Bernard Lietaer in his book, even if we launch hundreds of individual initiatives to repair each of these, most will fail because they only address symptoms, not the principal root cause. This root cause for the world being out of order in so many ways is that we remain naively unaware of the law of sustainability and therefore do not follow it. This law, Bernard Lietaer said, is more important for mankind than Newton's law of gravity. Newton's law defines how things work, the physical world, while the law of sustainability describes how mankind will survive or not. The law of sustainability simply says that systems or networks are sustainable if they balance their efficiency and resilience. It is best explained with the curve of sustainability presented by Sally Gerner, Bernard Lietaer, and Robert Ulanovich in their publication. In vertical direction, the curve shows a system's sustainability. To the left, its resilience increases, while to the right, its efficiency grows. On the curve, we see the system's sustainability determined by the balancing of these two. In the center of the curve, the system reaches highest sustainability by optimal flow of energy, matter, and information. Moving to the right, the system increases its efficiency, but at the same time reduces its resilience, while moving to the left, the system has more resilience and less efficiency. 4 terms are essential to understand how Lietaer, Gerner, and Ulanovich used this law. For illustration, I will use the present corona crisis. First, a system. A system is a network of elements in flow of energy, matter, and information. Both the terms system and network are in use. Money flows in a system, and other examples are forests, healthcare, the ocean, businesses, education, and the internet, of course. For the example of corona, the system is a country's healthcare system. Flow is the stream of people infected by that virus as it moves through doctors, hospitals, clinics, etc. Of course, with this stream of people, we can see a flow of energy, for example, financial funding, and information, like diagnosis, testing, tracking lines of contamination, and so on. Sustainability is expressed as the network's capacity to sustain such flow. In other words, a sustainable system enjoys unconstrained flow of energy, matter, and information. A country's healthcare system, for instance, is sustainable if it can cope with each case of corona rapidly and effectively. If, however, this flow is hindered or constrained, it is not sustainable. Resilience. Resilience comprises two competencies. First, a reserve of flexible fallback solutions to cope with shock or novel disturbances, and second, the competency of adjusting to the novelty needed for ongoing development and evolution. Corona is a shock for a country's healthcare system. To be resilient against this shock, it has, for instance, a sufficient number of intensive care beds available for patients with serious infections. This resilience varies by country. For Germany, we see 33.9 such beds per 100,000 inhabitants in hospitals, while in Ireland a much lower resilience in that element can be seen with just 5 such beds per 100,000 inhabitants. Efficiency generally is understood as the ability to avoid wasting materials, energy, efforts, money, and time in doing something. In a more general sense, it is the ability to do things well, successfully, and without waste. For the law of sustainability, efficiency is defined more precisely and specifically as the network's capacity to perform in sufficiently organized and efficient manner in purpose to maintain its integrity over time. For the case of corona, for instance, efficiency means a country's healthcare system's capacity to maintain its integrity, sufficiently organized doctors, hospital tests, and social rules. And finally, balance. If a system does not find balance between efficiency and resilience, it will not be sustainable. If it emphasizes efficiency and neglects resilience, it will crash. Or it will stagnate if it prioritizes resilience over efficiency. The key message here is balance, not either or. It's not either resilience or efficiency. Aesop's fable, in which the ant tells the grasshopper, "You should rather work hard than sing and dance all summer," does not say the same as this law. Instead, the law says you should both prepare for winter and sing and dance. For the example of corona, we can see that some countries have cost-cut their healthcare system to crash, for instance by reducing intensive care beds or limiting healthcare for the poor. 3 comments in detail for this law. First, this law applies to any system, so it also applies to criminal systems like drug trafficking. Second, in publications you will find 2 variations of the law's graph. Version A places resilience on the left and efficiency on the right, and version B places it the other way around. Both for Lietaer's book and for this presentation, we have selected the version shown, mainly because Bernard published this version in one of his last books, Money and Sustainability, published by the Club of Rome. The orientation has no influence on the message this diagram gives. And third, the curve is not symmetric, but situated slightly to the resilience side. This is a feature of this law, suggesting that resilience plays a greater role in optimal sustainability than does efficiency. Most people who see this law for the first time say, "So what is new? Have we not known this since ever?" Probably they are right, that we have known this since ever, but then, how can we humans be so stupid to bring each system we touch to crash, to drive it out of balance, to make it not sustainable, even the most vital systems? Provided we understand and follow the law of sustainability, many systems we depend on, we can bring back to sustainability, but we must take action, not just talk. Let's have a look now at how we manage systems with destructive efficiency and blind for resilience. Of course, every system needs continuous effort to sustain its efficiency, but we tend to go way beyond that. Our mantra is not efficient, but maximize, not optimize. With most systems we touch, we drive efficiency to a level where it hinders or blocks the system's flow, and this is destructive to the system. First, we tighten the belt. When the flow in a system drops, our intuitive response is to tighten the belt, which means we cut costs, and in business we lay off people. In fact, we drive our system further into the efficiency corner, away from sustainability. Just an example for this syndrome, Andrej Babiš, Prime Minister of Czechia, was quoted by Reuters for having said, "Forget the Green Deal initiative. Instead, focus on the coronavirus." We even take a step further. We pretend to achieve an even higher efficiency by externalizing cost, a nice academic term for letting someone else pay, society or the environment, for the consequential cost of our actions. From a total systems cost point of view, we just ignore our system's true cost and falsify our books. Just one single example for the many, many that exist. The true cost of pineapples would include the cost for revitalizing the sterilized soil and biodiversity of the soil we leave behind, as well as the cost of health care for workers sick from the chemicals we ask them to apply. Destructive centralization is another action we take. Few words trigger as strong emotions as centralization. For some, centralization is the root of all evil. For others, decentralization is the guaranteed way to chaos. The law of sustainability does not say either centralization or decentralization. Instead, it says both, in balance. Systems efficiency requires some centralization, and its resilience requires some decentralization. How much of each is not a question of moral values, instead is a question of how to optimize the system's flow. Centralization becomes destructive if it hinders efforts for resilience, which means diversity or decentralization. For instance, in the seeds business, where suppliers use patent laws to block farmers from replicating their own seeds. In addition to destructive efficiency, we also close our eyes to the need for resilience. We perceive spending on resilience with our blind eye just as a reduction of profit. As a manager of a famous hotel said, sustainability is an essential driver for profit, because the cost for removal of garbage, for energy and water, was 6% a few years ago and now has grown to 12%, and in some of our hotels even more than 16%, which is a tough reduction of our margin. Two examples for having a blind eye for resilience. When we merge businesses, our purpose seldom is the enhancement of sustainability of the new business. Instead, most mergers hail increase of productivity and reduction of cost, so efficiency in their words, and most, some sources say 80%, fail because that focus makes the system more brittle and crash. Second example, cost-cutting their healthcare system has eliminated intensive care capacity in many countries. As Michelle Bachelet, High Commissioner of Human Rights, said in a speech in May in Geneva, referring to the corona crisis, it has become obvious that some of the wealthiest and most powerful countries of the world were totally unprepared to face such a pandemic, although experts had always been warning of such scenarios. And she said further, it is horrifying how older people in retirement homes in some countries were neglected. I hope the discussion of the details of the law of sustainability and how we drive many systems out of sustainability has opened new insights. Also, I hope I've been able to share what I heard Bernard Lietaer say several times, that this law of sustainability is more fundamental than Newton's law of gravity. Let me repeat, Newton describes how physics work, and this law describes how mankind, we, our children, grandchildren, can survive and lead a sustainable life. Now let me apply this insight to Threefold and its role in the law of sustainability. Threefold plays a major role in the sustainability of mankind's information system. So let's start with that. Mankind is also a system. It's the network of us, with our flow of energy, matter, and information. It is a living system. It is self-organizing, continuously adapting its structure as required to survive, to achieve optimal sustainability. It is also self-creating. It creates new members continuously. We are predicted to grow to more than 10 billion people by 2100. Even we as individuals, individual elements of that big system, rebuild ourselves continuously. We renew our skeleton every 10 years, our intestines every 15 years, our liver every 2 years, our skin every 2 weeks. Self-organizing and self-creating serve one purpose of this system: to sustain it, to survive. And information is the key element of flow that constitutes this system. How do we, mankind, view and use information? Mankind, as I said, is a living being, self-organizing and self-creating. And any such system has a nervous system. This performs 3 tasks, as Humberto Maturana and Francisca Varela describe in their book, The Tree of Knowledge, which I really recommend for people interested in that subject. Task 1 of the nervous system is cognition, to recognize triggers telling what goes on both outside and inside the organism. Task 2 is knowledge, having the competence for correctly interpreting and reacting to such triggers. And task 3 is structural change, implementing the change selected by knowledge to change the structure of the living system. So what is the role of information? To perform these 3 tasks, the nervous system relies on a flow of information from cognition to knowledge to structural change. My cognition recognizes that I'm hungry, so it sends a question to my knowledge. What should I do? My knowledge looks up in the how-to library, finds lunch will be ready in 30 minutes, and then sends an instruction to structural change: just wait and get ready for lunch in 30 minutes. The same flow is active in a society. A country government recognizes a corona infection, finds no valid answer in their own knowledge, so reaches out to other sources of knowledge. Who might know what to do? China, South Korea, Singapore? Ask them to cope with corona. What do? Their knowledge says we reduce interpersonal contacts with good results. So the message to structural change says guide your own citizens also with regulations. As we can easily see, this flow of information is central for the operation of any organism. It is essentially vital for the sustainability of the human system. Its flow is information between all human beings, the flow by which we all share cognition, knowledge, and structural change. This flow of information amplifies human creativity, is the basis for human cooperation, carries the sharing of Individuals' views and knowledge is the language with which we keep the circle of cognition, knowledge, and structural change ongoing. Just to underline the importance of unhindered flow of information. In the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, published 1948, Article 19 says, everybody has the right of freedom to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. This is the statement about the right for flow of information, unhindered and uncensored. Does the Internet comply to the laws of sustainability to act as mankind's prime flow of information? It did originally, but today, definitely it does not. Originally, the goal for the Internet was to offer free flow of information for mankind's cognition, knowledge, and structural change, for everyone on this planet, as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights requires. That goal is history. Instead, we have replaced it with, to say it in blunt words, information for profit and power, pursued by Internet service providers and governments. By now, it's everybody's knowledge. In the present Internet, it's very easy and common practice to grab personal data and use it for profit. Take Facebook as an example. They simply handed out the personal data of more than 50 million users for Donald Trump's presidential campaign. The reality is, your data belong to Facebook, and the company will enrich itself by doing with it whatever it pleases. Search engines censor information they provide for profit. Digital advertisers use a variety of sources to aggregate a huge amount of data about individuals, using for profit by enabling them to better target their ads and without permission from consumers about the use of their data, wrote the New York Times Privacy Project. Further, many users don't realize that some app providers and developers sell their users' location data to marketing companies, allowing profiles to be built for targeting, advertising, or other purposes, and not necessarily apparent from the use of the original app. Governments, to exercise power, censor the flow of information on the Internet to what they believe citizens should recognize, know, and apply, and thus they actually reduce diversity. They streamline the opinion they think they make in the Internet. By country, the degree of censoring can easily be seen on the World Press Freedom Map of Reporters Sans Frontières. Press freedom in the United States is now rated problematic, continued to suffer during President Trump's third year in office. Arrests, physical assaults, public denigration, and the harassment of journalists continued in 2019, demonstrating sadly that the United States is no longer a champion of press freedom at home or abroad. Ultimately, such governments may issue laws forbidding diversity, like in the horrible case of the Nazi regime, which imposed death penalty for saying things the government did not appreciate. Prices for Internet access are set by providers for profit, but they are too high for many, resulting in the so-called digital divide. The numbers shown on this map are reported by the ITU. However, they may be overstated on purpose. A recent report by Jessica Rosenworcel for CNN Business said the following: "From where I sit, nothing could be further from the truth. I would know. I'm one of the 5 commissioners of the FCC, and I refuse to offer my support for the US 2020 Broadband Progress Report. FCC data systematically overstates service across the country. In reality, more than half of the students live in homes without broadband, and only 1 of 5 citizens has bandwidth required for video consultation by doctors. And in the UK, 1.9 million households have no access to the internet. In Manchester, a community network said almost 75% of the women they support are completely reliant on pay-as-you-go services and have no access to the internet. Going to the next point, the present internet relies on super large data centers managed by a few companies. This is a useful configuration for exercising power and for censorship, for money and governmental power. Such data centers consume significant amounts of electric energy for operations and of water for cooling. Just the data centers of Bitcoin use as much energy as the whole of Switzerland, a new online tool from the University of Cambridge shows. Estimates of worldwide energy consumption vary, but some estimates go up to 10% of the world electric power, or 40% more than all the energy consumed by the United Kingdom. With respect to waters, US data centers are projected to use 174 billion gallons of water in 2020, according to a report by the Energy Department. Technology giants aren't the only parties building data center. The government agencies have built them too, and their biggest national security agency's data center uses 1.7 million gallons of water a day and is located in drought-prone Utah. Finally, let's have a word about security. The Internet would demonstrate resilience in the ability to provide and maintain an acceptable level of services in the face of faults and challenges to normal operation. Actually, it does not meet that requirement. Both data center outages and cyber intrusion show that we fail in that aspect too. Nearly 1/3 of all data centers in the US had an outage in the past year, up from 25% the year before. And 80% of the data center managers said their most recent outage was preventable. And cyber intrusion, cyber crime, or spying of governments on each other gets more aggressive every year. In the US, there is a hacker attack every 39 seconds, and the total cost of cybercrime committed globally is estimated at over $1 trillion in 2018 and has been growing steadily since. To come back to the question we started from, does the Internet comply to the laws of sustainability for mankind's flow of information? The answer is it did originally, but today definitely it does not. It is sick. So it's time to wrap up and offer the answer to the question from which we started. What is the position of Threefold in the law of sustainability? First, we had a closer look at the law of sustainability, the law of flow of energy, matter, and information in networks or systems. Then we had a critical look at how we manage systems, how we drive systems towards destructive efficiency and blind for resilience. Third, then we looked at mankind and the vital importance of its flow of information for gaining and sharing cognition, knowledge, and adaptation. And then we saw that the Internet today fails to comply to the law of sustainability for mankind for this flow of information. The answer to our question is, by the law of sustainability, Threefold brings the Internet from its efficiency-centric position back to sustainability of mankind's flow of information. for a thriving, healthy circle of survival, of cognition, knowledge, and structural change. For this radical improvement, Threefold delivers 5 massive changes to the Internet. First, offering private ownership for information instead of expropriating it. Second, replacing censoring with unconstrained flow. Third, offering the Internet for $1 per day worldwide, so in fact closing the digital divide. Fourth, offering the Threefold Grid, a global network of nodes for computing and storage as alternative for supersized data center, and so significantly reducing use of energy and water. And fifth, significantly improving security by basing the new Internet on advanced blockchain technology. And far beyond that, Threefold goes ahead and gives a shining example of healing our addiction to efficiency and thus bringing back a vital system to sustainability. An example which mankind will and must follow for many other systems.